Get out of that seat before I have security drag you off this plane." The words cut through the first-class cabin before 11-year-old Amara Bennett could even fasten her seatbelt. Senior flight attendant Vivian Cole stood over her, one hand on the headrest and the other pointing toward the open aircraft door. Amara's boarding pass clearly showed seat 2A, yet Vivian barely looked at it. A few passengers stopped arranging their bags. Someone whispered, "She's just a child." Amara lowered her eyes, pressing her trembling fingers around a small silver airplane charm hanging from her backpack. Beside her, Aunt Renee rose slowly from seat 2B. "Her ticket is confirmed," she said. Vivian's smile was thin and cold. "Children like her don't accidentally end up in first class. Move now, or both of you will miss the flight." A businessman waiting in the aisle glanced at the empty seat and muttered that he had requested an upgrade. Vivian immediately treated his request as more believable than Amara's ticket. "You're watching EchoStory, where hidden truth has a way of entering the room at exactly the right moment. If stories about courage and justice matter to you, like this video and subscribe before we continue." Renee held out the boarding pass again, but Vivian snatched it from her hand and slipped it into her pocket. Then she raised her radio and announced, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Security needed in first class for unauthorized passengers." Amara's eyes filled, but she refused to cry. What no one in that cabin knew was that the small charm in her hand carried the same emblem printed above the airline's corporate headquarters. 20 minutes earlier, Amara had walked through the gate wearing faded jeans, white sneakers and a yellow hoodie that was slightly too large. Nothing about her suggested wealth or influence, and that was how she preferred it. She was traveling with Renee to Boston for the final round of a national youth aviation competition. The silver airplane charm had belonged to Amara's late mother, Naomi, who used to tell her, "When people make you feel small, remember that the sky never asks where you came from." Naomi had died 2 years earlier, and Amara still feared flying without her, but she had promised to complete the trip. Renee had booked the journey months in advance and checked their seats 3 times. At the gate, an agent scanned both passes, smiled at Amara's name, and quietly made a phone call before escorting them toward priority boarding. Vivian noticed the simple clothes first. Then she noticed businessman Charles Whitmore complaining that his first-class upgrade had not cleared. As Amara passed, Vivian looked from the child to Seat 2A, then back to Charles. Her expression changed. She asked Amara twice whether she was sure she was on the correct aircraft, even though the scanner had flashed green. Renee answered politely, but Vivian continued watching them. A young crew member named Noah checked the reservation tablet and saw a gold symbol beside Amara's name, followed by a note. "Seat protected. Executive authorization. Do not reassign." Before he could ask what it meant, Vivian covered the screen with her hand and said, "I'll handle these 2. That was the moment judgment became a decision. Vivian approached Amara with the careful smile people use after deciding not to believe you. "Where did you get this boarding pass?" she asked. Renee replied, "From your airline, after we paid for these seats." Vivian ignored her and addressed Amara. "Did someone give it to you at the gate?" Amara lifted her chin. "The agent scanned it and walked us here." Across the aisle, Dr. Helen Price, a pediatrician returning from a conference, watched the child's hands tighten around the charm. She recognized the difference between guilt and humiliation. 2 rows behind her, a college student named Jordan quietly started recording. Noah reopened the reservation on a second tablet. The gold symbol appeared again, with the initials ER. He knew the airline's founder was Elias Reed, but told himself the letters could mean anything. Vivian leaned toward him. "Close that screen." "The seat is locked," Noah whispered. "There's an executive note." Vivian's eyes hardened. "You're new." "Those notes are often outdated." Nearby passengers exchanged uncomfortable looks. Charles said his loyalty status should place him ahead of a child who probably won't use the service. Amara did not answer. She simply held out her digital confirmation. Vivian glanced at it for less than a second. "Screens can be altered," Helen spoke. "Then scan it again." Vivian turned sharply. "Ma'am, stay out of a crew matter." She removed Amara's carry-on from the overhead compartment and placed it in the aisle. "You are blocking boarding," she announced, though Amara had not moved. When Renee reached for the bag, Vivian raised her radio and reported that 2 passengers were refusing lawful instructions. By the time boarding ended, First Class knew Amara was being accused of taking a seat that did not belong to her. Vivian stood in the aisle like a prosecutor. This child was unable to provide valid proof of assignment, she declared, while Amara's pass remained inside Vivian's pocket. Charles placed his briefcase beside Seat 2A as though the decision had already been made. One woman avoided eye contact. Another whispered that perhaps the family had entered through the wrong lane. Jordan's phone continued recording from between 2 seatbacks. Helen raised her voice just enough to be heard. "You took the proof from them." Vivian replied, "I confiscated a suspicious document for verification." Renee's jaw tightened. "Then verify it." Noah checked the manifest and saw Amara's name beside 2A, with Charles listed only as upgrade pending. He also noticed a direct contact number under the executive note. His thumb hovered over it, but Vivian caught his eye and shook her head. Amara stood slowly, her face hot with embarrassment, yet her voice remained steady. "You don't have to think I'm important. You only have to read what your own system says." The cabin went silent. For 1 second, Vivian looked uncertain. Then Charles complained about the delay, giving her the excuse she wanted. She told Amara and Renee to collect their belongings and wait at the gate for economy rebooking. Renee refused. Vivian announced that failure to comply could lead to removal from the airport. Then she called the ground manager and said, "I have 2 aggressive passengers attempting to occupy restricted first-class seating." At the aircraft door, security heard only Vivian's version and began walking toward them. Ground manager Paul Grady boarded with security supervisor Malik Thompson, both expecting a routine dispute. Vivian met them before Renee could speak. They entered first class with a questionable pass, refused relocation, and became disruptive. Paul looked at Amara, then at Charles beside 2A. "Ma'am," he told Renee, "the quickest solution may be for you and the child to step off while we investigate." Amara's shoulders stiffened at the child, as though even her name had been taken away. More phones appeared. Malik asked Vivian for the boarding pass. She hesitated, then handed it over. "Seat 2A, confirmed." Paul scanned it and frowned when the tablet displayed a gold lock. "Manual reassignment prohibited." Vivian said the system sometimes carried outdated restrictions. Noah knew that was false. Renee remained calm. "If her ticket is invalid, why did the gate scan turn green? Why is her name on the manifest? And why is the seat locked?" Paul had no answer. Vivian stepped in. "Technology fails. Crew authority must come first." Malik asked Charles for his confirmed assignment. His phone clearly showed pending. A murmur moved through the cabin. Paul's certainty weakened, but he still asked Renee to leave temporarily to avoid delaying departure. Amara clutched the charm. "If we step off, everyone will think she was right." Renee knelt beside her. "Truth does not change because people are impatient." Vivian snapped, "Enough. Remove them now." When Malik did not move, Vivian grabbed Amara's backpack strap and pulled it from the seat, sending the child stumbling 1 step into the aisle. The silver airplane charm struck the floor and slid beneath Charles's polished shoe. Amara froze. It was the last gift her mother had placed in her hand before entering the hospital for the final time. Vivian reached for the backpack again, but Helen stood. "Do not touch that child." Her voice carried through the cabin. Malik stepped between them. "Ms. Cole, release the bag." Vivian let go, then pointed toward the door. "Her behavior proves she is not safe to transport." Amara crouched, retrieved the charm, and saw a fresh scratch across the airline emblem. Her lower lip trembled. Renee wrapped an arm around her, but Amara drew 1 slow breath and stood. "My mother taught me not to shout when someone wants me to look angry," she said. Even Charles looked away. Jordan raised his phone higher. Noah opened the protected reservation and pressed the executive contact number. Before the call connected, Vivian snatched the tablet. "You are not authorized to contact corporate." Noah's face flushed. "And you are not authorized to override that lock." Paul's phone vibrated. A message from operations appeared. "Hold flight 417. Do not close door. Executive review in progress." Vivian dismissed it as automated and ordered Malik to escort Amara and Renee onto the jet bridge. Malik reluctantly asked them to step outside while facts were checked. As Amara crossed the threshold, passengers protested. Helen followed as a witness while Jordan uploaded his video. Then Paul received a second message containing one name, Elias Reed. His face drained of color. But what happened next changed everything, because footsteps were already approaching from the terminal. The aircraft door remained open while Amara stood on the jet bridge beside Renee, holding the scratched charm against her chest. Inside, Paul answered an urgent call from corporate operations. His posture changed. "Yes, sir?" "The child is safe." "No, the door has not closed." Vivian stared at him. "Who is on the phone?" Paul did not answer. Noah retrieved the tablet and showed Malik the protected reservation. The gold symbol matched the emblem on Amara's charm. Beneath it, the initials ER appeared beside a private note. "Passenger traveling without public recognition." "Family security protocol active," Noah swallowed. "This is not a loyalty code." Jordan confirmed that the confrontation had been saved. Helen added that she witnessed Vivian confiscate the pass and initiate physical contact. Vivian's confidence cracked, but she continued resisting. "Anyone can place initials in a booking. That does not change procedure." Paul ended the call. "Those initials belong to the person who created the procedure." From the terminal came a shift in movement. Gate agents straightened. A regional director hurried toward the jet bridge. Behind him walked an older black man in a charcoal suit, carrying no luggage and wearing no visible badge. Yet every employee recognized him. Elias Reed had founded Meridian Skies 32 years earlier and still owned the controlling share. He stopped when he saw Amara outside the aircraft. His gaze dropped to the scratched charm, then rose to her wet eyes. "Amara," he said softly, "why are you standing out here?" She tried to answer, but Renee spoke first. "They removed her from the seat you reserved." Elias looked through the door toward Vivian. Then Amara whispered the single word that turned every face in the cabin: "Grandpa." Silence fell so completely that the soft hum of the aircraft ventilation sounded loud. Elias embraced Amara, examined the scratched charm, then walked into the cabin holding her hand. Vivian's face had gone pale. "Mr. Reed, there has been a misunderstanding," she began. Elias did not raise his voice. "Then we will understand it carefully." He asked Paul to display the manifest. Amara Bennett, Seat 2A, confirmed 6 weeks earlier. Charles Whitmore, business class, upgrade pending. Noah showed the protected note and the 3 times Vivian had opened and dismissed it. Malik stated that Vivian described the family as aggressive before security arrived. Helen confirmed that Amara remained calm. Jordan played the video showing Vivian taking the pass, rejecting the warning, and grabbing the backpack. Every claim met a record, witness, or timestamp. Vivian's final defense came quietly. "I did not know she was your granddaughter." Elias looked at her. Her last name should not have mattered. Her skin should not have mattered. Her clothes should not have mattered. And my ownership should not be why you finally believe her ticket. Amara stood beside him without triumph, only exhaustion. Elias turned to Charles, who admitted his upgrade had never cleared. Then he addressed the cabin. The seat was hers before anyone knew who she was, and her dignity was hers before she entered this aircraft. He ordered all records preserved and requested statements from crew, security, and witnesses. Finally, he faced Vivian. "Effective immediately. You are removed from this flight and suspended pending an independent investigation." Vivian lowered her eyes, while Noah realized that silence had nearly made him part of the harm. Vivian removed her wings pin with unsteady fingers and handed it to Paul before Malik escorted her from the aircraft without spectacle. No one applauded. Amara watched quietly, then said, "I don't want her life destroyed." Elias knelt so they were eye to eye. Consequences are not destruction when they are fair. They are protection for the next person. Charles apologized directly to Amara, admitting that impatience and status had made him accept a seat he knew was not confirmed. Helen submitted her statement. Jordan transferred the recording. Noah confessed that he had seen the executive lock early, but stayed silent because Vivian controlled crew evaluations. "I was afraid for my job," he said. Amara answered, "I was afraid too." Those words struck him harder than any reprimand. The independent review later confirmed that Vivian ignored a protected booking, confiscated a valid pass, misled security, and relied on biased assumptions to remove a child. After due process, her employment was terminated. Paul received corrective training for accepting an incomplete report, while Noah helped design a protected reporting channel for junior crew. Meridian Skies introduced a new rule. No passenger, especially a minor, could be removed over a seating dispute until 2 employees independently verified the manifest and boarding record. Security requests also had to include the exact reason and available evidence. Elias created a confidential hotline for employees challenging unsafe or discriminatory decisions. When the flight was finally ready, Amara returned to seat 2A. On the tray table lay her cleaned charm beside a handwritten note from Noah. "Thank you for being braver than I was." Weeks later, Amara stood inside the Meridian Skies training center beneath a wall-sized photograph of an open sky. Her scratched airplane charm rested in a glass case for the day, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a reminder of what happens when assumptions receive more authority than facts. Elias invited her to speak to new crew members, managers, and security teams. Amara did not deliver a grand speech. She held the charm and said, "I did not need anyone to discover who my grandfather was. I needed one person to read my ticket before deciding what kind of child I was." Noah sat in the front row, listening without looking away. Helen joined by video, and Jordan allowed the airline to use a shortened version of his recording for training. The program was named First See the Person. Months later, Amara boarded another flight in the same yellow hoodie. A flight attendant scanned her pass, smiled, and welcomed her by name. Amara paused, then walked toward her seat with her shoulders relaxed for the first time since Flight 417. This is why stories like hers matter on EchoStory. Every child deserves protection. Every passenger deserves dignity, and authority becomes dangerous when no one questions it. Respect is not proven by how kindly we treat people after learning they are powerful. It is proven by how we treat them when we believe they have no power at all. What would you have done in that cabin? Share your answer in the comments, like this video, subscribe to EchoStory, and send this story to someone who believes silence should never be stronger than truth.